What's going on, guys? This is Lior and welcome back to my channel. Now, what I thought I would do in this video is talk about how I view line items in my budget as investments versus cost, right? Because, when you're doing development projects such as this, right, we're standing on one of my sites, it's easy to see, each one of your line items as, extra cost, things that drag down your budget, and try to essentially cut them or, see if you can beat them up on pricing or find another vendor that can do it cheaper, right? But there are some line items that need to be really thought about as an investment, right? And that's what I'm gonna talk about in this video, is which line items I think about an investment, why I think about an investment, and why it's actually really, really critical to the success of a project. So with that, let's get at it. So as I mentioned, there's some line items in a development budget that, I like to think of as an investment rather than, hey, how can I beat this number down? Who can I go to that's cheaper, right? Obviously, line items like materials, right? I'd try to get it as cheaply as possible, right? If the same material costs a little bit less, great. There's even some, contracting line items that I think we try to beat down that are maybe a little bit less, expertise based, right? Maybe I'll try to get down a couple of tile quotes and see if I can beat down some tile, even like, floors, some carpentry work if it's nothing too extensive, right? But there's some line items that absolutely I view as an investment into the project, and I don't just try to go beat up the cost, right? And starting with architecture. And with architecture, even though of course good schematic design, good layouts are all super important, right? And you need that, there's actually a lot of other value that an architect can provide that can really increase the value of a project, right? And I'll give you probably a more extreme case in this particular project, right? This was a 3 unit buildings that we bought, right? And one of the things that the architect found as we were doing our schematic design was based on the zoning in this particular district and based on the grade elevations of the basement, which is right here below us, we actually were able to finish the basement as a separate unit by right, without having to go through any appeals process, without having to go rezone the property, anything like that. And again, this is obviously a little bit more of an extreme benefit, right? It's not like every day we find additional units, but that kind of shows the value, right? That a good architect can actually really help you not only do proper due diligence, like finding additional units in the basement. Maybe it's, we've done additional square footage that we finished as part of the first and the basement together. That's also huge value. But then there's also the value of designing the plans correctly based on our construction schedule, right? Like, stacking the layouts properly. Another particular item that was kind of tricky in this building was the existing staircases when we first bought the building were in the middle. And, as much as we try to design around keeping the existing staircase, we ended up figuring out that the best layout optimization was by creating new staircases, in the entrance of the building, which allowed us to create nice square, much more rectangular layouts, right? So all of these little things, in addition with the support with the structural engineer, really provided a ton of value in terms of how to effectively structure the project and then how to effectively execute on the construction, right? So these are line items that, I could have certainly tried to beat down the cost or gone to someone cheaper, but the value I get out of having the right architect on my team is immense. Similar to the architect, other design professionals I view very similarly, right? Civil engineering, structural engineers, right? Again, I could obviously go and try to find potentially cheaper vendors or someone that could do it for a lower cost. But again, finding the people that have the expertise and that can help me to carry the project forward is huge. In this particular project and some of my other active projects, there's a lot of the things we uncover, particularly in existing buildings, that need to be dealt with that we might have not known about, right? Especially as we're digging into basements or opening basement walls up that we weren't sure about before. There's a lot of things that get uncovered as you're going through this kind of project. So having a structural engineer, A, that's very flexible, B, that's responsive, right? And C, that can kind of really help you figure out on the job what's the best solution, what's the most cost-effective solution, depending on what's important to us, right? So, is it the ceiling height that's important? Is it the cost, trying to beat down the cost that's important, right? Especially when we're doing with basement work, right? All of those factors are things that I really want to flush out appropriately, with my design professionals. So again, investing in these line items, investing in these people for each project becomes huge in order to successfully execute. So those are just some of the few examples of, again, line items on my budget that I really expect a return on my cost, and that's why I'm willing to invest higher dollars into them. Again, I want to be super clear. There's obviously there's a lot of items in a development budget where $1 saved is truly $1 earned, and that is very, very important. But there are definitely some line items where we have to, as developers who want to execute the project to our vision, who want to execute it efficiently on a timeline, we do have to invest in having the best team, the best professionals around us, right? So make sure you kind of think about that, right? Because again, it's very easy to try and get cost sensitive on every single line item. And, even though we obviously have to keep a very sharp eye on everything, there are items that absolutely are critical that, even though they are tough in the moment, especially when you're writing the checks, really do pay dividends over the course of a project. So hopefully that's helpful, guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below.